What's up, guys? My name is Ty Trehern, and you are listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast.
Ty.
How's it going?
Good. How are you? It's Bruce Moore, my partner, Chris.
Nice to meet you guys. It's going well. You guys doing okay?
Yeah. Where are you? Is that Mississippi?
It is Mississippi. Yeah, that's where we are. Yeah.
What's it like down there? Is it just like the rest of the country, or is it kind of better off?
Man, that's a good question. It's interesting to say the least. There's good and bad, just like everywhere you go, man. I think there's a lot of really cool things that are hidden down here, especially if you've lived here for a long time. You start to learn, different things about the state and about the people and everything. But definitely have a lot to work on and to figure out. Obviously, anyone that watches the news would probably be able to tell you that. So yeah, man, it is what it is. I've lived here all my life, but definitely can recognize that. So
right.
What's the COVID situation like down there?
Man, it's honestly, it's not nearly as bad as other places that I've seen. I've definitely figured that, there's obviously going to be stuff here, but just the lack of testing and the lack of resources that the state has right now, it's almost hard to tell, what the definite number is.
Yeah.
In terms of just like legitimate statistics and facts and everything, though, I think that we're doing better than most places are. I think the other day, my particular county only had 12 positive tests.
Yes. Is Mississippi a pretty urban county, or is it more of a rural county, or urban state, or rural state?
It depends on where you are, man. If you go to a place like Hattiesburg, for example, that's I would say a pretty urban town. There's not really a lot of rural area here. It's very modern. It's very progressive. But if you go to a place all love to Starkville and everything, but if you go to Starkville, then you're pretty much driving around and, a farm until you get to the campus that, the colleges are out over there and everything. So right. It's weird, man. It's only you travel maybe an hour to a different city and it's a completely different place that you're in. So it's not like a Florida or a Texas where it's okay, I'm in Texas, I'm in Florida, I'm in, Nevada, wherever. If you're in Mississippi, you're going to be in a million different places at once. So nice.
I only ask because I'm from Canada and I've only lived in the United States for 3 years.
3 years. Okay, I'm jealous. I would kill to be in a different country right now. So.
You and me both.
Yeah, especially Canada, man. One of my favorite bands right now, Spirit Box, is out there. So, dude, love what they do. Love Courtney LaPlante. I'm simping over her big time. So that's definitely love Canada. I would love to get out there and see what that's all about. Y'all have some, what's is it the breakfast restaurant? The really, I don't want to call it the Huddle House. Is that what it is? That's out in Canada?
No, most people go to Tim Hortons in Canada.
That's what it is. Tim Hortons, dude. I've been itching to try Tim Hortons. I hear nothing but good things about it. So whatever I get out there, man, I gotta try Tim Hortons, and then I'll let you know.
Their coffee is like crack. It's you go there and you order a double, and that's like a coffee with 2 cream, 2 sugar. They just call it a double, and you take it, and it's just for the next hour, you're just all right,
off the wall. Let's go. Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know if they put extra caffeine in it or what, but it's different than any coffee you'll ever have. It just jacks it.
Some things you don't even have to question if it works.
So let's take this back to your music here. So let me give you a brief little thing. And normally we've been doing podcasts for a couple of years, and it's the Brutally Delicious podcast, but it's mostly been focused on heavier metal and heavy rock kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. We've just started expanding. So, you're one of our newer episodes here. So for those fans not familiar with Ty Trehern, can you give us the 2-room boardroom pitch or 2-sentence boardroom pitch? Sorry.
2-room boardroom.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For sure. So I would like to ideally describe myself as an artist that doesn't really like to limit himself based on genres. I just make music. I love what I write. I love who I work with. I come from, ironically enough, since we're talking about, you know, the podcast being what it is, I come from a metal background. I come from a heavier music community. All of my friends were in metal bands. I grew up listening to all of that stuff. But found myself in a predicament where I could only play music if it was just me. And I felt at the time very green and very limited. You know, one guy can't play a 5-piece style of music. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna have to figure this out. And I ended up getting put into a place where I started working on this project, this, I guess, singer-songwriter style stuff. And we just kept leaning into getting more alternative and getting more weird with it. And then just writing whatever comes naturally and, you know, creating stuff that we feel is accessible to people that like all sorts of different styles of music, while also remaining true to, you know, the things that I love and the things that I want to write. So I feel like there's something for everybody with what I do. And I know that's almost very cliche and generic, and artists say that all the time, but coming from that type of niche background that we discussed, you know, I feel like it comes through in music that I write sometimes in a subtle way, of course. You know, I'm not playing blast beats or anything on the radio, but like, I would love to do that if that were ever an opportunity. but yeah, man, that's I guess that would be the pitch that I would hopefully give to somebody that has literally no clue who I am. It's just, it was described to me from a press article that we recently had as just genreless music. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever, because in 2020, genre is essentially dead and out the window. You know, I mean, you can look at artists and you can see that they're doing all sorts of different things, and just being creative and just having fun with making music. And that's the coolest thing ever to me. So,
right. Are you doing anything different to keep up with your fans during this time of COVID? You doing any live streams or any kind of Twitches or gaming people are doing anything like that?
So I've been doing a lot of stuff on some of my personal pages. As far as the official music pages and everything like that, all my business profiles, I've really wanted to be methodical with the approach of how we go about that, because it's almost as if that's becoming an oversaturated market now. And I see a lot of bands doing the live stream stuff, which is all great. You know, I think it's really, really cool, especially considering what we're, you know, involved in with the climate right now. But I've had discussions with my team, and we've all agreed that if we're ever going to do anything like that, it needs to be done the right way, especially with the new record on the way. You know, we want to make sure that the first impression is really, really strong. And right now, the focus is just on putting the content out. It's just on getting the music released. Making sure that we are able to engage people with that particular type of content, and give them something to look forward to. So whenever those things do happen, whenever live streams happen, whenever shows come back into the fold, you know, all of that can be even more meaningful to them because they've had this new music to absorb and take in. So, but the Twitch stuff, I definitely want to get more into that. That's super fun because I love video games, and I have a buddy who he Twitch streams, and we've talked about just, you know, getting online and just doing some stuff and hanging out and, you know, just having a good time. So those are all things that I'm experimenting with right now and looking into for whenever the time is right and we can do it to the best of our ability.
Gotcha.
I have a question. So I was listening to the single Better Off before we came on the air, which is a great song, by the way. Really well done. Really well produced.
I appreciate that.
But your voice is really low when I'm talking to you. What is your vocal range?
Man, I wish I could give you the technical answer for it, but I really have no idea how any of that works. I genuinely just go in, and I hate to say it, but genuinely just go in and wing it. Like I have warm-ups and stuff, obviously, that I do, but I didn't even start, you know, really focusing on that until this year, and the year obviously prior in 2019 when we were working on the record, to better develop and take care of my voice whenever shows were happening. And then, you know, studio versus shows, that's a completely different environment to prepare your voice for. So I've had to learn a lot about that, but all the technical things, like, you know, alto, soprano, tenor, all that stuff. Like, I could not tell you, man. We go in, we write melodies, we see what works and what doesn't, and I just sort of go in and figure that out. But since you asked me, I'm going to go ahead and probably look into that and find out because I probably should know. Would always be helpful. But yeah, man, I just sort of do it. I actually, I've really never been into singing until 2017, 2018.
Oh, wow.
I've always been more of a, always focused more on instrumentals, always been more of a guitar player. I've always loved to write songs and compose, and all of the songs that I write, they start out instrumentally, like vocal melodies, just they originate from leads that I write, on guitar. So that's always been more of my like domain and more of my familiarity with music.
Yeah.
But then, like I mentioned earlier, I was kind of put into a position where I was like, I want to play music, but the only person that I can truly count on and rely on in this circumstance is myself to get it done. So I'm going to have to learn how to do these things. And so, learning how to sing has been a challenge, and I'm still not nearly where I want to be with it yet, but I'm, working on it every day. And I think that, in some of those songs, it definitely shows. But yeah, man, just working, just kind of winging it. Don't really know what I'm doing, but
well, you wouldn't know it by listening to the tracks. They sound great.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I've had Jonathan Doley's, my producer, one of my best friends. He was such an awesome mentor and a guide to kind of help me find, my voice and what I needed to do to sound the certain way that I wanted to sound, and how to, make those songs feel way bigger and way better than they already were. So you have him to thank for that, really.
Yeah, I just signed up because I just signed up for something called the 30-Day Singer. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's like 30 days of vocal lessons, and it's like they charge $25 a month or something.
Wow. Okay. Who's the instructor? Is it like a
I don't know who they are. One of them is like a really famous Canadian Broadway star. They have a bunch of them on there, but it was founded by the guys that they teach lessons on The Voice, like the TV show The Voice. So it was founded by the people that coach the people on The Voice, if that makes any sense.
That's awesome. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, The Voice, man. I've been starting to watch that a lot more recently, especially after Matt McAndrew and Slaves have been knocking it out of the park lately. Yeah. At least in my opinion. And he was from that show. I think he worked with Adam Levine at one point. And cool. So it's been really interesting to see the transition of him going from that sort of environment to the scene now, and just, flawlessly pulling it off. So, we've been trying to study that a lot more and watch that. Yeah. So
one thing I noticed about your track is that about the track Better Off, it sounds like real instruments. Is it all real instruments?
Some of it is. Some of it is not. So all of the guitars and everything, all the string-based instruments, that's all real and organic. Yeah. The percussion element, we incorporate a lot of samples, which is really interesting because it offers a different dynamic. We tried to do the live drums thing. We tried to use the full kit on the last record that we worked on, and it started to get way too muddled and way too generic.
Wait, 1 second.
You're good. You're good.
Bruce?
Everything okay?
Bruce?
Yeah, I'm going to mute. Keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. That's awesome. I take it it's a dog is what's going on.
Yeah. Bruce has a couple things.
Yeah, it's a 150-pound Great Dane and a little shit dog that thinks on the porch. I'm going to mute you. Keep talking.
Okay. You're good. That's awesome. That's great. But yeah, man, no, it's the percussion stuff it's mostly samples, and then here and there we'll throw in a few organic things if we feel they're necessary. But like I said, we tried the live drum thing, we tried the full kit, and it didn't necessarily capture for lack of a better term, the theatrical feel of what we wanted the songs to come off like in terms of just making something that was just like urethral and just big, and whenever you listen to it, it's almost like, okay, this is not just a normal, ordinary recording. Like, this is something, there's an atmosphere involved in this that you couldn't necessarily get out of, unfortunately, out of the kit now.
I think a lot of pop music, though, requires kind of creation, instead of performance a lot of the time. I mean, creation is a performance in its own right, I believe, personally. Like, programming takes a lot of knowledge, You know, it's not it's not something that you can just be like, everyone's always like, oh, it's just a drum machine. Well, no, it's not. It's not that easy.
No, not at all. And that's all, again, to the credit of Jonathan, who has blown that out of the park. He is a wizard when it comes to production and just, you know, introducing sounds and ideas that I would have never have ever thought of. Or maybe he can be the guy to find the way to take what I'm thinking and trying to explain, which I do very, very poorly. And really take it and just like know exactly what to do, and even make it better in a lot of instances. He's just brilliant at that. And so like being able to sit down and watch him do that and find just the right thing, because like you said, it is an art form in itself. You know, anybody can go on, you know, onto a computer and dial in samples, but obviously there's so much more that goes into that and capturing just the right sound. And then you introduce things like vocal layering and synthesizers and all the tools that are necessary to really create the dynamic of the song, which, you know, if you hit a drum every now and then, you may not necessarily be able to accomplish that. And that's at, you know, no disrespect whatsoever to drummers or anything like that.
God, no.
You know, obviously there's tons of different artists and bands that can incorporate kits and, you know, incredible type stuff to come out of it. I mean, like, I think one of the most underrated bands when it comes to percussion is Architects. I love what they do percussive wise.
Nice.
But for us, you know, that's not something that we felt was appropriate for this record, at least.
Yeah,
definitely would never say, you know, no in the future, because like I said, I love that kind of stuff, man. But
well, even if you look at a band like 21 Pilots, you know,
absolutely.
They'll go, sometimes they'll have real drums, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll have real instruments, sometimes they won't. Like Car Radio might be one of my favorite songs ever.
Nice.
From them, which is such a great track.
Right, absolutely.
But, you know, I can't remember the name of their new track that they just put out now. But I think
is it Level of Concern?
I think so, yeah. But it's nothing even close to Car Radio. It's because they're not pigeonholing themselves into like, okay, we have to do this.
Right.
You know, they can just do whatever they want. And that kind of sounds like what you're doing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, even you bring up a really good point because of that band specifically. I mean, you look at the jump from that record, Vessel, which is, in my opinion, at least one of the greatest pop records ever.
Yeah.
I think that record front to back is great. I mean, tracks like The Run and Go, which is super underrated. The opener, Ode to Sleep, I believe, is the introduction to the record. Like, all of those are great songs, but then you go from that to Blurry Face, which really put them into the mainstream. And it's just insane what they're able to do and not be limited. And that's kind of back to what we were saying earlier with genres, man. I feel like you can, if you pigeonhole yourself into a specific genre and you decide, I want to do this one thing, and we're just going to completely rule out all of the other possibilities when it comes to making music, then you really limit what the songs can be. And I think that should be at the forefront of every artist's intention with writing music, is making sure that it's what benefits the song.
That's an interesting take. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, again, Jonathan and I had a lot of discussions about, you know, because we would come in and write songs, and there's obviously the intention of wanting to make sure that everything is cohesive and that there's common themes, especially with a full-length record. But if you limit what is on the full-length record, if you limit those tracks, then it's just going to be lifeless, essentially. Like, there's not going to be, you know, the songs aren't going to feel important to the listener. And I think the goal should be to make every single song that you write as, you know, the best song that it can be. And everything else will just naturally fall into place. So yeah, again, like you said, it's an interesting take, and I'm sure that there's a ton of other artists that may have a different opinion on that, but that's the beauty of it, is because it's all subjective,
and you do what works for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's been a formula that's been working for us so far, I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Bruce?
I got nothing else.
I don't, man. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ty.
Hello out there. Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McLean. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.